Hello, boys and girls of the internet. I have returned after a short hiatus of summertime kiddo fun, and I'm here to talk to you about night fighting as a civilian. All right. Now, we're in a weird place with night optics in the civilian landscape, talking about America specifically. In that between hunters with thermals and tactical bros with NVGs and also their thermal optics, pretty much in every group of guys, in every team, in every squad, whatever the case, somebody's going to have a night optic. But for sure, almost not every single person will. So, how do we exist in this reality where we know night optics are about, and but perhaps we don't have one, or even if we do, we know we'll be working with a bunch of guys that don't? All right. TLDR, in case you don't want to watch this video, night optics are going to excel at allowing you to maneuver, right? So bundle up all the people not without night optics in the middle, night optic bros in the front, night optic bros in the back, and you can maneuver yourself under the cover of darkness to somewhere else where the enemy doesn't expect you, and or static positions, right? So in defensive positions or in lookout LPOP positions, where you can just sit tight and observe the battle space, and take shifts on those night optics and identify everybody else that's trying to do those maneuvers under the cover of darkness against you, right? That's where they're going to excel in civilian place. Getting all of your bros together to try and do a night gunfight raid probably won't work out well, especially if half of you or more don't have night vision. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty and actually talk about that. So, first I'm going to build some perspective, as I often do. We're going to talk about how Special Forces used night vision in the Global War on Terror, the GWOT, and then we're going to talk about how conventional infantry forces used night vision in that same time frame. Okay, and then we're going to talk about some things that they did that we can't, and then we're going to talk about the details of how I would use them as a civilian. All right. So Special Forces, as I've talked about in many videos, typically, especially in the mindset that we think of, right? They're doing a raid, they're flying on the helicopter, they get off. It's all sneaky and fast, and they do it super quick and under the cover of darkness, and with their 4 night visions and thermal clip-on stuff and blah, 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 blah. It's super sexy, super cool, cover of magazine, make movies about it. All right. So, first of all, they're super duper trained. They work together all the time. Okay, they have more time under night vision than you do, most likely. Pretty much guaranteed. That's probably true if you're watching this video. They have more time working together as a team, so they can almost do this stuff blindfolded, right? It doesn't even matter whether they had nods or not. They could execute these movements of muscle memories and be in the right place and blah, 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 blah. Probably not true for you and your group of dads. Also, they're being, with all the logistic force and support force of America, they're able to insert with intelligence and all this stuff and other assets, providing security, etc., into a soft target, right? They don't send a group of special forces to go clear a house of guys that know they're there and have built up sandbags and have frags on their belt ready to go and machine gun positions inside the house, etc. They're going to like some hostage location or where a high value target thinks he's hiding or something like that, and there's a very low amount of security forces. They don't expect anything. Everybody's very complacent, and then so they're leveraging stuff like speed and surprise, right? If they can come at night and they can use night optics and they're going to fight against a force, referencing the Global War on Terror, pretty much nobody had night optics, the enemy. So if we can come in at night, we're all super trained, we all know what's up, we all have the best night optics in the world, and we can overwhelm a force that doesn't even expect us, right? They won't even know we're there, and then boom, we've already taken the whole house, and we're waking dudes up by tapping them in the face or on the shoulder with the muzzle of our rifle. And that's awesome, and that's great, and that was super effective, and that's wonderful. But the point that I'm illustrating is not only do you not have that level of expertise, nor are you on a team of everybody else that does, but you also don't have that level of logistical support to be able to reach those kinds of targets in any sort of civilian context fighting that you could see yourself doing, right? You're going to be much closer to an average infantry, right? You're going to be having to fight against people that are more expecting it, and definitely without any of that logistical support. So, even as regular infantry in the Global War on Terror, where I was a professional soldier and I was with all of my friends that were professional soldiers, and we all had night vision and we all trained on night vision, all the time, every week, every month, all the time, walking around in night vision, doing patrols, doing night shoots under night vision, etc., etc. Anytime we had to actually do anything at night, which we did for a fair amount, especially in training, it was always a shit show. Okay, you're looking through a PVS 14, or even if you have 31s like this. All right, it's either green tinted or black and white, so there's no color, there's no detail. You can only have unlike your eyes that automatically focus for all the different distances, you can have to pick a distance basically, and that's where your NVGs are focused at. So anything beyond that or in front of that is going to be blurry and out of focus. It's going to be hard to identify details. It's going to be hard to tell who's friend or foe, etc., etc., etc. So actually doing complex stuff like conducting a raid or an ambush or just a full-blown deliberate attack, while you're using thermals and night vision to be able to see, is extremely difficult. So even as professional warfighters where everybody had night vision, typically we would use the cover of darkness to stage, right? We would insert or make a big movement during the night, and then just as the sun was coming up, then you would launch your actual attack, right? Then we would go hot and do the business. Okay, and even the movements, anything you do in a night is a shit show. I'm just reiterating. Even professionals, quote unquote professionals, right? I was in the Marine Corps Infantry. Dudes that do this get a paycheck, do this all the time, do this multiple years. It's still a shit show. You can't tell who's who, blah, 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 blah. So one of the things that we did, because none of the enemy had any night vision, is we used the shit out of IR. IR strobes, IR flashers, IR flashlights, IR marking tape, IR insignia badges, right? To make up for the fact that it's a shit show, okay? Well, we can see a light spectrum, the enemy can't because we're using night vision and they're not. So to help regain some of this command and control, everybody that's a good guy has IR stuff all over them, and if they don't, then that probably means they're a bad guy, for example, right? Just to make it clean and cut and short. We can't do this as civilians because whoever our opposition is likely going to have at least some night optic, NVG, IR visible capabilities, right? So we can't do that, which means it's going to make night attacks even more difficult from the civilian perspective. Not only are we not professionals, not only do we not all have night optics, but now we can't even utilize IR to help us with command and control, be that lasers, flashlights, strobes, or insignia badges, right? So the point that I'm coming to that I've already said is basically what you're going to want to do is utilize those night vision optics to observe the enemy or attempt to maneuver on them, okay? So we know the enemy's in one place. They know we're here under the cover of night, right? Hopefully it's an exceptionally difficult night. Maybe there's some cloud cover, no moon, something like that. Or even with night optics, it's hard to see. So we're going to make a big movement, right? We're going to go from our base and we're going to move our forces, stage just outside of there, wherever it is we want to attack. People with night optics up front to navigate. People with night optics, at least one guy in the back, so he makes sure nobody gets left behind because he can see everybody. Everybody in the middle, basically almost so close you can reach out and touch everybody, ranger file, and you just move super slow. Command and control takes priority over all other tactical principles. And because no one can see you, hopefully, with a little bit of luck, you'll be able to catch the enemy by surprise, and you'll be in an advantageous position for attack. Other things, like I already said, you can do if you're in a defensive posture, having night optics at all of your posts, or as many of them as you can, depending on what the exact scenario is, and then rotating guys through you. So those night optics is going to obviously give you a huge advantage, right? Now you're going to be able to identify targets 100, 200, 300 yards out, possibly even more, especially with thermals. rather than waiting until they're 20 or 50 yards out with your naked eye. Super duper great. Same thing with lookout positions, LPOPs. Have the night optics there, and then you're going to be able to observe your area of observation even better. Wonderful. So, and then it doesn't matter, right? If you're on an LPOP and it's a 3-man or 4-man LPOP and there's only one night optic, you can take shifts, right? Take shifts. 2 guys sleep. 1 guy will listen to the radio that's scanning for enemy transmissions. 1 guy uses the night optic. They swap and back and forth for eyesight fatigue, and then you wake your other 2 dudes up and rotate. Boom. So 4 guys at an LPOP can make use of just 1 night optic. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. I think that's all I have to say, fellas. That's what I would do as a civilian with limited night optic devices, but knowing that the enemy most likely at least has some as well. Catch you on the next one.